You're listening to the Dungeons, Dragons, and Psychology Podcast. We've all been in that scenario where the week has gotten away from us, and all the time that we had planned to put into preparing for our session that week just didn't happen. The temptation might be to cancel your game and wait for the next week when you've had more time to prepare. But that's not always the best options. Sometimes those spontaneous games that you're not prepared for can end up being your best sessions. I'm Robert Walker, author of Session Zero, the DMG to writing great campaigns in any system, and this is my show where I teach collaborative storytellers how to create memorable campaigns using psychology. And today we're going to be talking about running low or no prep sessions with a few fellow DMs from the Do We Level Up podcast. So let's meet our guests.
Hi, my name's Noel. I am part of Do We Level Up podcast where you play D&D. My role is the DM, and on the side, I just like playing video games and playing D&D. Just finished God of War Ragnarok. Love that game.
And I'm Laura, and I am also part of the Do We Level Up podcast. I play our party divination wizard. You can also find me on a couple different things. I am also a cast member on Dark Industries on Twitch, where we stream live on Twitch some different D&D, Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, any of those kind of tabletop games. And then I also stream video gaming on my own channel, Nix from Sticks, on Twitch as well.
That sounds like a lot of fun. How do you enjoy doing that?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm not on as frequently as I should be because I also, of course, have a 9-to-5.
I feel you there.
If I could make it my full-time job, dude, I would.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that sentiment. Like, I think that every day, every time I record, I'm like, man, this is just so much more fun than going to the office. Why can't I just do this all the time? So you have a D&D actual play podcast. It's set in your homebrew world of Galadria. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about the premise of the podcast and what got you to the decision that you wanted to share this story with the world?
It's a homebrew world called Galandria, and we usually have about 4 players, and they all have amazing characters, lots of fun. We have a lot of fun RP, combat, puzzle solving, the works. We just have a lot of fun each week, and we decided to share because, honestly, one of our players, Ella, she asked... Because I did it for my brothers first, and then she asked, well, why not? No, not DM it for the group. And I kept saying no, and she kept poking and prodding until finally I was just like, maybe I can do this.
That is the way it happens.
Pretty much.
And we had just finished, doing Princes of the Apocalypse that Noel also DM'd and had a really great time. And the story, the way that Noel crafted the story, kind of even beyond what the module allowed for, was just really fascinating to me and to the rest of the group. And so we thought, hey, let's give it a try and put it out on the internet and see if other people dig our storytelling, because I think we do a really awesome job of telling a story.
Yeah, I've been spending the last couple of days listening to the show and enjoying it myself. So I definitely agree with that statement very much. One thing I do want to ask for the listeners, Galandria is your own homebrew world. So can you kind of give them a little, just sort of the 411 about the world, and what is it that makes Galandria unique?
One of the things that I love about Galandria, and this is a huge credit to Noel and the way that his brain works, it's not just one location. Noel has created cities and different areas of a map, and there's mountainous regions, there's desert, there's a whole island that we haven't even explored yet, and we've been playing in this world for 2+ years. So the fact that we haven't even hit the amount of stuff that's in this open world, just the incredible creative brain that Noel has, that he made all of this. But the other side of it is that he's really let us run with it and create aspects of it too. So my character is a drow, and we've kind of flipped the script on drow, and they all come from an island nation called Vodaloon. But Noel and I really worked together to create that, and he gave me some creative liberty to come up with things that I wanted the drow people to have, which I think is really unique from a dungeon master, especially one who's creating a homebrew world, to allow their players to then also craft and shape that world. Noel has done an amazing job of doing that for us.
That's a really great concept. It's actually something I've talked about on the show before, is when you're building a world or when you're building an adventure, giving your players the opportunity to build something in that world, to create a piece of that so that as they interact with it, as they're involved with it, it feels more real to them because it's something that they had their hands on and they're just more excited and more invested in it.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's so funny because when I first built the world, I realized I built a utopia, and then I was like, "Oh wait, what's the point of having players here?" So I like
Yeah.
I took out things that were like too good, and I purposely made things that were problematic and stuff that
Yeah.
they could work on and fix and try to change the world. And essentially, like I kind of built the world for them in a sense.
Hmm.
It's really interesting because like I even told them in the beginning the main plot is whatever, it'll be there and you guys can do what you want, but it's more about what you want to do with your characters in the world and how you change it and shape it.
Well, I mean, it really is that whole experience of collaborative storytelling. If you want the story to actually feel like a collaborative story, you have to let your players' actions and their decisions and the things they want to do affect the world that you create. I mean, something I've said before is you don't be tied to your world just because you created it. You created it for it to be experienced by these people, so let them
Hmm.
make changes that are lasting and real.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite moment from the show so far? A favorite character moment or favorite interaction? Something that really stood out for you as really amazing in this story?
I think one that really sticks out to me for my character personally, we have a celebration called Purple Moon on Vadaloon, where the goddess of all of the drow people actually comes down and visits with her party. And one of the things she does is she grants a wish. And my character is searching for her long lost teacher. He was kidnapped or murdered or something. She doesn't know. And she goes every single year to ask what happened to her mentor. And the question's never asked for her. And in this particular episode, she gives up her opportunity to talk so that her party member who has a bigger, more pressing issue was able to have that time. And the way that Noel handled that and then gave me time to still talk to the goddess and talk to Lunara, I sat and I sobbed in the middle of the episode. And it was just one of those kind of very touching moments to be able to still have that and yet still be true to the character and the selfless nature that my character has. Yeah, I don't cry often, but I cried that time, and then I think maybe one or two other times in session. But that one was just really fresh of a really fun, awesome moment.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
I gotta follow that. Gosh dang it! I got like a silly thing.
I know she did make it hard. Yeah.
I mean, there's another one of my favorite moments in Noel. You know what it is, but I can't talk about it because it hasn't aired yet.
Oh.
So.
Well, I'm talking about this one whether it aired or not, but I think there's so many good like serious moments. Like there's so many good ones. But for me, because I think I understand serious very well and easily. What I don't get or what I respect a lot of is humor, because I think writers who write humor, I think that is ridiculously hard, and I don't know how they do it, and it's just impressive to me. So this one NPC that we created, because one of the player characters can speak with animals. And they were basically asking me out of game, like, can we have animals that I can speak to? I'm like, yeah, for sure. So I started just throwing out different animals every once in a while. And then I came up with this idea of this quokka, Cutie the quokka, who's very devious, and he comes off as cute as and innocent, and anyone who can't speak with animals thinks he's just this adorable little thing with these chubby cheeks. But the barbarian who can speak with animals knows his true nature, and he is evil incarnate. Uh, and just the interactions with that and with everyone else is so much fun.
You made me think of a situation that we had in our past, because there is something about like characters who can speak with animals. They're really fun because they kind of force the DM to embody the essence of an animal while they're playing them as an NPC,
100%.
which is always fun. But then I remember we had this one ranger who spoke with animals and always to horses. And by the end of the campaign, we had like this whole horses union, and they were working for sugar cubes and apples. And like, I don't know, it got out of control, but it was pretty funny.
Well, I think Cutie's first appearance is happening tomorrow in the episode that drops tomorrow.
Yes.
Awesome.
So,
Yes.
well done.
Another one of my favorites is the thing that we have a snippet of on Instagram, I think, with the monkeys.
Oh, the monkeys.
Yeah, because one of the same player was just like I basically asked her like, oh, how do you communicate to the monkeys? What does it sound like? So she had to make like monkey noises, and it was so much fun.
That's awesome. So our main topic today is running low or no prep sessions. It sounds like, Noel, you've done a lot of legwork into this world, filling out cities and everything like that. But sometimes you can come to the table and not have anything ready, even if you have a big world designed or even if you have a module ready to go. Sometimes you're just not ready for a session, but you still want to play. I've had to do that on occasion. Notably, like 2 weeks ago, I had to do it because I was too busy with work and the holidays are crazy, but I still
Mm,
wanted to have game with my friends. Now, early on in my DMing career, this would have just caused me to cancel a game if I wasn't ready.
yeah.
But I recommend against that because impromptu sessions, I've learned over the years, can be some of the most memorable and fun sessions that you ever have. So, Noel, can you tell me maybe an experience that you have getting through a low prep or a no prep session, or just a situation where it turned out being really positive when you went into this?
Yeah, actually, a while back with my brother, because I run a home game with my brothers, and then I run online with the rest of the crew for Galandra. So back, and this was early on when I was DMing too, and I've only been DMing for a couple of years, but there was one session where in the Fey Run setting, my brothers decided to go to Waterdeep, and
Mm,
nowhere in the module is Waterdeep. So they went there, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. And there was a moment of panic. Well, there was a lot of moments of panic, but then I just sort of let go. And all I knew
mm.
from Waterdeep is that there's like a tavern with a hole in the middle, and people go
Yep.
down
Mm-hmm.
there to
Yeah.
go.
The
Yep.
yawning
Yeah,
Yawning
portal. Yeah.
portal. Mm-hmm.
exactly. Yeah. So that's all I knew. So from that, I just improv the entire session, and it went so well. Everyone had so much fun, and because I wasn't like beholden to anything, or I wasn't trying
Mm,
to follow anything, everything was just like working back and forth, and it was kind of easier, and I felt this the inspiration or the creativity that you're always like yearning for kind of deal. I felt like I was just in it the whole time. It was a lot of fun. It was one of my most fun sessions.
that's a very good point. It is easier sometimes. I mean, you put so much work into preparing a really
Oh
well
yeah.
crafted session, and I applaud that too. And typically that's how I do like to DM. I do like to think like 3 steps ahead and be ready for how I want the story to kind of unfold. But there is something about just being able to, like you said, just let go and just have fun and just follow the story wherever it takes you, right? Like it's a beautiful thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Laura, were you in that game?
I wasn't, but I also DM on the side and definitely agree with some of the most fun sessions that I have DM'd were the ones where I had little prep. Now, I am a DM that I DM exclusively modules. I don't have the brain to create something completely new, but I ran Curse of Strahd, and there was one particular moment where the party decided to go to the Wizard's Tower. I was not prepared for the Wizard's Tower. I
Mm,
thought that they were going to go to the werewolves. And what I ended up doing was remembering some traps and puzzles and things that I had had other DMs do or I had read on the internet. And I just threw
mhm.
together that wizard puzzle. And they still to this day remember that particular session and said that it was the most fun they've had in a session from that one party that I did. Probably because I made them do the YMCA as like dwarven ruins or what are they
Uh,
called? Runes.
yeah,
Yeah. So I made them figure it out, and then they had to do the YMCA, and it was delightful.
that's awesome. Actually, I remember a trap, and I talked about it on my show early on in season one about doing that. Having the puzzle to open the door was the characters had to move into certain dance poses,
Mm-hmm.
and getting the players to do those dance poses is like really entertaining.
Yeah, it's super fun.
One of the things that the listeners will probably run into if they do go into a session where they're not ready to run the game, but they're still going to go ahead and do it anyways, is it can be kind of challenging and a little bit intimidating. What advice would both of you give to somebody who's a little afraid of doing a session without being prepared?
I can go
First off,
first.
yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I think first and foremost is just breathe and think back and remember that you're likely here with a group of friends and with people who want to be there and want to play the game and want to be having a good time with each other. So the pressure to perform or the pressure to make some kind of perfect session. Just let that go and just have a fun time with your friends, even if it means having a completely one-off, this session has nothing to do with canon, or we do something absolutely ridiculous. Let yourself have that, because sometimes that fun can create something completely new that you didn't expect out of the session.
Yeah, for me, some of the challenges, there have been a few times where I kind of felt like I let the players down, or like I didn't bring enough in. But the thing is, they always seem to have fun. And like Laura said, when you're playing with your friends, most likely, or people you've been playing for a little while, so a lot of the times they sort of are willing to work with you. Or if you just say, hey guys, I just need a moment, that just give me like 5 minutes. I'm gonna go like just look this thing up real quick, or let me just do a couple little things, let's take a little break. They're always usually willing to work with you and just give you a little bit of time. And honestly, one thing that, like we said earlier, is to just kind of let it go, because even though you're probably panicking and thinking like, oh, I'm sucking so much, or I'm failing, or I'm not like meeting up to expectations, the players tend to not know any of that.
Right.
For the most part, they think you're doing this glorious thing because you're just doing it. Like to a lot of players, just DMing is enough that they're like, well, that's really cool, that's awesome. So yeah, like you're always going to be your own worst critic.
Oh, that's very, very true. And I've kind of got this theory behind low prep sessions that you're right. At the end of them, even if you're being very critical of yourself, the characters and players always seem to have a great time. And those are the sessions, it always seems that people get up from the table at the end of the night and they're like, we had a wonderful time tonight. And you get messages afterwards. Tonight was a great session. This was really interesting. And I really think that part of that might just be because when you're not prepared, you have to react as a DM rather than act as a DM, right? You are reacting more to what the players are doing. And so it's more player driven in those sessions than DM driven. And I think that something about that really meets the needs that they have going into the game.
I think too, in that moment when it's so off the cuff and it's so just missing that preparation, we as DMs are less precious about it too. Yeah. I think when we plan and to, in my case, like in an extent over plan, I became really precious about what was happening and what I wanted from this moment. And then when it didn't go the direction that I wanted it to go, I found myself frustrated, thinking maybe I didn't explain it right, I didn't do this right or something, because the moment that I had envisioned in my head of what I wanted to happen didn't. But when I have less prep, I'm less precious.
And sort of like adding to that, even if you have a player or players that didn't have a good time that session, it's the same thing. You always learn something no matter what. So if you feel you did poorly, or if some players you just can tell they didn't have a good time, you can sort of learn from that. Like each thing is a lesson. So you still take something away from it, and you just know like, okay, this didn't work out this time, so we'll do either less of that or we won't do that next time.
Yeah, very good points. All right, let's go ahead and move on to tricks of the trade. For tricks of the trade today, I've asked Laura and Noel to share one idea each on a specific piece of advice or source of inspiration on how to pull off a low prep or a no prep session. I have one of my own. I'll go ahead and go first so the two of you have a moment to think. And my advice is utilize online generators. My favorite one is fantasynamegenerators.com. Just go to that website. They have hundreds of description generators and plot idea generators, names and places, locations and backstories, like anything you could possibly need on the fly, you can get with just the click of a button. And so if you don't have anything ready, click until you find the thing that you really like and then run with it. I think that is, for myself, one of the easiest ways that I've been able to pull off these type of sessions.
That's awesome. I'll write that one down, actually.
I love Fantasy Name Generator. 90% of my characters come from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like anytime somebody's, what's their name? And it's an NPC that wasn't like important to the part, just, oh, there it is. Here's the name.
So again, me being a DM that primarily uses modules, if you are in a situation where you need a quick encounter on the fly, either pull from a different module. A lot of them have adventure hooks or have some moments that are easy to find. I'm lucky in the way that I have pretty much every module purchased on D&D Beyond, so it's really easy to just pull that up and find it. Or there's a really great resource called the DM's Guild. online where you can pull relatively cheaply from free to pay what you want. Easy little one-shots to try and spice up what's happening. And a lot of times you can find either an individual encounter or some bad guys to throw at them or something from those sort of quick at your fingertips resources.
Yeah, it's a great point. The DM's Guild is a very good, useful resource in a situation like that. And to your point about like pulling monsters from another module, Matt from the 20 Sides podcast was on my show just a couple weeks ago, and he said something that I thought was very brilliant, and I haven't really thought about it before in those terms, is that every stat block is just a stat block. Every monster is only flavored by their name and their picture. You can take any stat block out of the monster manual, give it a different name, pull up some random picture from the internet, and you've got an entirely new monster your players are going to know nothing about. And so I think that's another good resource for that.
Yeah, I've been learning to do that more recently, and it's changed everything. But for me, I'm gonna say the Lazy DM's Guide. It's not what it sounds like, but basically it's just a little guide that's meant to help people who are over preppers. Because I used to prep, oh my God, I can't even count how many hours a week I used to prep for a session. It would be days on end kind of thing. So the Lazy DM Guide helped me so much. And this guide is just a simple thing that you can read through. And it breaks it down to essentially just like, I think 3 things, whereas where does your session start? Write down 3 places the players might visit and write down 3 NPCs they might run into. And I know it sounds crazy. It's like, wait, there's no way that's enough. But the Lazy DM Guide talks about how, what we've been talking about, that D&D is the magic that happens at the table. It doesn't happen when you're prepping. So you have these minimal things that you can look to, that you can keep in mind, and that helps you. It's almost like little matches of ideas that sort of spark ideas, and you just go with it, kind of deal. So you're not beholden to anything crazy. You just have these little things that you start off with, and the rest of it is happening in the improv with you and your players. And they talk about how, like, if you want to have a monster stat, it's exactly what you just said. There's a million monster stats. You can just pick one and then roll with it.
I'm going to second that. The Lazy DM's Guide is excellent. I've actually had a couple of people who have compared my book to that because I think it has some very similar information in there. So yes, definitely, I would agree. So fantasy name generators, DM's Guild, Lazy DM Guides, there's 3 fantastic resources that you can get for very low cost to no cost for some of them, and be ready to run a session right now without any preparation. So that's all great information. Before we sign off, I want to give you the opportunity to share with the Cyclothids where they can connect with you, follow you, any other projects you might have in the works, and where to listen to the podcast.
So we are on social media at Do We Level Up 1 on Twitter, or at Do We Level Up Podcast on Instagram. We also have a Facebook page, which you can find us if you go on Facebook and search for Do We Level Up Podcast. We are available on any streaming service. Our main website host is on Buzzsprout, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. Just search for Do We Level Up.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being on today.
No, thanks for having us. And that's a sweet coffee mug.
Hey, thank you very much for that. For the listeners who can't see, I am drinking out of a Do We Level Up podcast mug right now. So,
oh, that's pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show, and let's head over to our knowledge check. For today's knowledge check, I want to talk to you about the power of spontaneity. Now, it's been studied quite a bit in psychology, and the article that I'm talking about today comes from Psychology Today. It's by author Amy Green and is titled Why We Need to Be Spontaneous. Now, this article references several different reasons why spontaneity is important and how it can improve our life, but I think for me, the thing that it calls out that really stands out in the role-playing space is a quote, and she says, "Many of us have experienced the unparalleled satisfaction that arises from unplanned experiences, which exceed the expectations we never had the chance to build up." End quote. I think that, for me, really describes how I feel at the end of a spontaneous session that I didn't plan for. I go to the end of it and I'm worried about what happened. But then, like I said earlier in the interview, I have all these comments that I get from the players about how much fun the session was. And I think that's exactly what she's talking about there when she says experiencing the unparalleled satisfaction that arises from unplanned experiences. And there is something that is just truly unique about that. Having an experience that no one at the table had planned for, and yet it ends up being incredibly fun and adding depth and richness to the story that you never intended because you never wrote anything about it. Unparalleled satisfaction that arises from unplanned experiences. So I will just leave you with that. I think it's a beautiful thing, and just go out there and be spontaneous. I do want to remind you all that we are currently running a giveaway for 5 Kindle Access codes for my book on Amazon, as well as 3 autographed copies of my book. It's pretty easy to enter. All you need to do is leave a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, screenshot that review, and post it to your social media, or send me a copy of the screenshot in my direct messages on Instagram or on Facebook. My Instagram handle is dungeons_dragons_psychology, and there you can find my Linktree link that has my link to all my other sites, including my website. You could also reach out to me there, and my email. That's it for today, Cyclothids. Until next time, we will see you next session.